Okay, so this example we're going to go over, we are going to use chain style dimensioning in order to add dimensions to this multi-view drawing. And remember, we're going to assume that one grid is going to equal to 1 inch as we kind of measure out each dimension. So let's go ahead and get started with the height, because remember, we have to dimension both height, width, and depth of all the features of the object. But be careful, remember of our guidelines in the guideline document, we want to make sure not to over dimension, obviously to keep it neat. So let's get started. So we're going to start with height, and remember on our isometric view, height goes up and down, okay? And I'm going to kind of trace over the lines that are kind of going in the height direction. The reason why I'm doing that is because then it can kind of help you visualize on which views you see height. So now let's look at our views. This view is the front view. And when you're looking at the front, are you going to see these heights? Yes, you are. So the front view is one view in which we can draw in dimension to height. And also, if you notice these red lines, you can see on the side view or this right side view, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and choose though to put my dimensions of height on the front view. And I'm choosing that because it's the view that really shows the most amount about the object, okay? So let's get started. Now remember, again, we're using the chain style, which means we're going to start at one point. So we're going to start at the bottom because we're doing height. And we're going to go to the first feature, draw my second extension line, going to draw on my dimension arrows, and then I'll go ahead and add the dimension in there, which is 3, 6 grids, which equates to 6 inches. Okay, but now again, we're doing chain. So instead of starting at the bottom like baseline, we're going to start where the last dimension ended. So we're going to start at this extension line, and we're going to go to the next feature, which is actually the very top. So I'm going to draw an extension line there. And then if you notice, I can't really fit a ton in there. It's a little difficult. I know that the dimension is 2, so I'm going to keep 2 inches in there. And I'm going to see if I can draw my arrows in. Yep, I can kind of fit them in there. If you have an issue with the arrows, you can kind of move them around. Again, the key thing though with chain dimensioning is try to keep them all in one line. Okay, and remember you have one dimension connected to the next one. Okay. All right, so height is now done. The next dimension we're going to look at is width, okay? So for width on the isometric drawing goes along these diagonal lines for width. And so I'm going to trace over the edges that go in the width direction. And again, that's going to help us visualize what views can you see these green edges, these green lines, and technically you're kind of going to see these angled ones, right? So on here, if you notice, you're going to see them when I'm looking at the front view, but you're also going to see them when I'm looking down at the top view, okay? Because, right, you see those green lines for the top. So either one, if you want to put it here on the front view or on the top view, that is up to you. I'm going to go ahead and just keep going with the front view. So I'm going to start on one side, draw an extension line, go to the next feature, draw an extension line. I'm going to put in my 2 inches, and then I can put in my dimension arrows, okay? Now remember, the next set, I start where I finished off. So here's one extension line. I need to go to the next feature, which is this. So I'm going to go ahead, extend that edge. I'm going to put the value of this dimension. So I'm starting here. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's going to be 5 inches in the middle. Draw in my dimension arrows. And again, try to keep it all in one line. And then I just have this last little part. So I'm going to draw an extension line. That distance is 2 inches. And then go ahead and put in your dimension arrows. There you go, nice and neat in a straight line, okay? Width is done. The next dimension we need to do is our depth. So depth goes along these diagonals, or the diagonals going in this direction, okay, which also I'll even draw it down here because it's kind of easy to see down here as well. So if you notice, you're definitely going to see these edges on that right side view, but you'll also see it if you notice looking at the top. You're going to see those purple edges, okay? So either one, you can do it on the top view or you can do it on the right side view. I'm going to go do it on the top just because I feel like that top view really shows the shape of the feature. This right side view doesn't really indicate that this is angled, so I really think that top view is important. So let's start with our chain. I'm going to start on one edge. Again, make sure it's past. I'm not putting dimensions kind of underneath. And then I'm going to draw an extension line at the next edge. The distance in between there is 4 inches. Draw in my dimension arrows. Now I'm going to continue, but I'm starting where I left off. So here's the next edge I need a dimension to. The space in between those two lines are 2 inches. And now I'm going to draw in my dimension lines. And believe it or not, we are done. That is height, width, and depth. We're not over dimensioning. This is perfect. We wouldn't need to add dimensions over here, or we don't need to add this overall dimension. Okay, we don't need this. Don't need it. And the reason being is because you can get the overall dimension by adding 2 plus 4 over here. So you don't need this overall dimension. Okay, remember, if you can do a little bit of math to figure out a dimension, then you don't need to add them. Okay.